Good morning, I'm Jeff Colvin of Fortune. Our topic is jobs for the 21st century, and that video did a pretty good job of setting it up. The world of work is in transition and it's radical. Many people blame technology for loss of jobs, for stagnating incomes. Many other people blame globalization for it. For the first time ever, there is serious debate among informed people about whether technology will create more jobs than it eliminates. The one thing we know for sure is that jobs are going to change dramatically in the coming years. They're already changing, and what that means for companies as well as employees and societies, that's our topic. We have two terrific panelists to talk with us about it. Seated next to me is Mark Hoplamazian, who is President and CEO of Hyatt Hotels. Next to him is Thompson Lee, Chairman and CEO of TCL Corporation. Mr. Lee, let's start with you. You make consumer electronics and appliances. Technology is changing your business profoundly. What will be the high-value jobs for humans as technology advances?
It's really difficult to answer. So what job is more valuable? Printing money, probably. But anyway, each job is creating creating values. That's for sure. For the manufacturing industry, we're faced with this threat from the technology, especially AI, automation technologies. The productivities are being improved because of technologies, and therefore the values created by people are also increasing because of the facilitation of the technology. For example, in the past, our sales revenue is increasing, but the total headcount is not. Basically stabilized. Each year, we have to improve the productivity per capita in order to increase value and for the company. And that's also a response to the competition. If you do not constantly improve your productivity and competitiveness of your company, then you will be lagged behind. So I believe for companies, AI or automation technologies should be used to facilitate our management and production in order to improve our competitiveness, and that's the best approach. Thank you.
Producing more every year with the same number of people, are the jobs of those people changing?
The jobs of the people are changing. The total headcount, it didn't change, but it doesn't mean people didn't change. We didn't change people. Each year there will be some changes of the employees, people coming in, people coming out, and those who left in the company are adapting themselves, or because they've adapted themselves to the changes, or because we have new business requirements, so we add new people with different capabilities. Each year, we will recruit around more than 1,000 of newly graduated from universities. So there will be a similar amount of people leaving the company because of the, that's a natural process. So those who left probably will go to the other industries that are suitable to them. And some of them started up their own companies. And on the other hand, the company should strengthen our internal trainings in order to improve the capability of the employees so that they could adapt themselves to the changes of the environment. That's why in our company, we stressed a lot on the training of the talents. We have different levels of training courses, technical training courses, management training, etc.
Mark, you're in a very different business, hospitality. What characteristics, whether they are skills or attitudes or anything else, are you finding most valuable in employees now, and what characteristics are really hard to find?
Well, I guess I would say that the number one characteristic that would define what we're looking for in new colleagues is empathy.
Right.
The practice of empathy is critical to our business. A lot of time and effort is spent talking about getting to know your customers better through the application of big data and machine learning, which we utilize for sure. But the front end of that is actually engaging with someone at a human level.
Right.
And so increasingly we are looking for ways to decipher how people are wired in that context of human interaction.
Right. You would like to decipher that, I imagine, in part for hiring purposes, right?
Especially for hiring purposes. And I think as we look at practices, right. Of course, we do utilize assessment tools, as many companies do, right. But we've done some experimentation recently. So we've had some hotel teams completely change the approach to recruitment. So one of our teams in India, for example, decided that specific skills were much less important than understanding how someone was wired in terms of their ability to engage and interact. So they held a job fair. Yeah. They took over a bar. And it was basically a day-long opportunity to engage with different candidates that came through, and actually seeing how they reacted when they walked through the door, trying to ascertain whether this was a job interview or a party that they were attending was telling in and of itself. But as a consequence of that, the diversity of backgrounds and the diversity of thinking and mindsets that we ended up with in that team yielded some remarkable results. We had some people who came out of the fashion industry, for example, that had, it turns out, a passion for, in one case, being a young woman who wanted to be a pastry chef, but she didn't have any skills. Right. And we said, actually, you've got some key skills that we think will be extraordinary in our environment, and we'll teach you how to actually be a pastry chef. Right. So it's an opportunity to reskill someone in something that they're truly passionate about, but really making sure that that core ability to engage is there.
That's very interesting because it has a lot in common with what I hear from other employers, which is more and more of them are focusing on, well, first of all, empathy. I hear that word a lot. And they figure they can teach you skills.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Mr. Lee, what skills or other characteristics do you look for when you're hiring employees for TCL? What are the most important characteristics?
When we were recruiting people, employees, we concerned about the ability to learn. Learning ability is very important if you want to develop in a company. You need to adapt to the technological changes and other environmental changes. So you need to have this continuous learning ability. And of course, in the overall process of recruitment, we need to consider other elements. For example, the responsibility and the willingness to excel. And new technologies are related with the new education as well. For a new employee, the skills they have, probably because they graduated from university, so they have this new mentality. But after working for a while, those knowledge accumulated in college or in other training programs cannot sustain. That's why you need to have the ability to study. You need to have the ability to study and to learn, to adapt yourself to the changes. Me, myself, graduated 36 years ago from university. What I learned in university, probably only 1% of them could be used now. 99% of the knowledge are accumulated from the working experience. So for the employees and for different levels of managers, it's also the same. Learning is very important.
If I could just interject,
Please.
I strongly agree with what you're saying. I think the pace of change is so high, and the different ways in which the work environment has evolved has led us to really focus on identifying people who have a growth mindset, who are not fixed in how they think, but rather constantly seeing how what's going on in other industries might apply to ours. So increasingly, we're looking for that ability to relate lessons learned from other businesses and to be able to adapt real time as a key to success going forward. So I strongly agree with what you said.
And you have, of course, training programs of your own, lots of them.
Yes.
There's one in particular, a leadership training program, the general manager, the GM training program.
Yes.
That is of such great interest to everybody I talk to now. They realize that leadership development is critical to them.
Yeah.
What is your program? How does it work?
Well, I think the particular application here in China, for example, is a bit different than other markets around the world. Over 75% of our colleague base here are what would be termed millennials, and just in terms of age range. And as I think most employers sitting in this crowd can understand, there's a tremendous level of, I would describe it as aspirational energy. Right. You could call it impatience, you can call it other things, but I would say it's aspirational energy. And one of the things that we really recognize is that the ability to, first of all, the ability to have a strong pipeline of homegrown talent, right. Chinese talent, is critical to our success. And what we've done is actually accelerated the path to general manager. Right. And we are, you could describe it as taking risk, right. By promoting and elevating people earlier than what you would otherwise do, because they may not be fully fledged in every respect, right. But it's a calculated risk. And I think that, frankly, we've benefited from that. We've got over 50 hotels open. Currently, we have 5 of our GMs who have come through and been promoted on an accelerated basis. We have 11 in the pipeline. I'm happy to say that over half of them are female. I think it's incredibly important for us to elevate career paths for young women. And this program really allows us to give young colleagues visibility to a faster path to taking on a leadership role. And it's been very productive. We also have some exchange programs where you can actually get rotated out of China or into other countries. So this is a global program. That's also very beneficial because, back to the ability to adapt, if you drop someone into a very different environment and they have to figure it out, that's a very good telltale sign of their success over time.
Yeah, 这是我是完全同意刚刚
Quite agree what he said. In our company, the similar issue, we are multinationals. In the local place, we hired a lot of local people, and for our GM, we hired the local people. When we hire these people, especially for the management team, we focus about the communication skills, because their work must involve a lot of communication skills with the headquarters. So for the height, it's very important to have the communication skills. We focus on this issue very much.
Spends a lot of money training your employees. Now, some people that I've spoken to say, well, why should I spend money training employees? I'll train them and then they'll leave and work for my competitors. I'm training them for my competitors, so I shouldn't do it. How do you think about it?
I feel as a company, if you want to return the very excellent employee, it's necessary to give them proper training to growth. This is very important conditions for your company to return the employee. If these people cannot feel that they have the potential to build growth in your company, they will be reluctant to stay in your company. During the process, there are some very talented people. They may choose to go to the other companies, or to change, to rotate, or even to have a new company themselves. This is quite natural. From a more broader sense of view, this is the social responsibility for the company. If all the company can do their own business and contribute a lot to the society and train a lot of talented people, this is a very
good contribution to the whole society.
What kind of formal education, school education, do you require employees to have before they can work for TCL?
When we recruit people, actually, we will have the sorted universities. Of course, we will choose very good educational standards universities. And at the same time, we will not focus much about their dedicated major, and we pay more attention about the comprehensive ability. And in terms of enterprise management, no matter for the skill job, the technical job, and the management job, we have the integrated requirement about the capability, competency. So a lot of jobs need a comprehensive ability. So we are not only focused their academic, educational background or some kind of scores or something. And during the communication, we also want to know about the judgment from the dedicated potential employees, and we also provide some choice for this kind of employees because they will provide a very stable foundation for this kind of company and employee. This is very good for both sides.
Mark, a couple of questions. First of all, is advancing technology taking over more tasks in your business?
The way we think about advancing technology is that it's an enabler to end up being able to provide a better experience for our guests. And I think one of the key ways in which we are focused on doing that is we are spending significant amounts on colleague-facing technology. Right. So the ability to actually grab data on a guest and pull information from operating systems in a hotel, but to then bring it to a tablet or a mobile device that allows a colleague of ours to not be staring at a screen and tip-tapping on a keyboard, but rather elevate their eyes and be able to engage with the guest across from them, is really one of the key ways in which we've really applied technology to impact the guest experience. So I think that's really been the focus it's really about the guest experience and enabling that.
Right. And so that's interesting to me because that's not an issue of technology eliminating jobs. It presumably makes people more effective in their jobs.
Correct. I would say that where we have seen the application of technology maybe impact jobs within the hotel has to do with the administration of the hotel itself. So I was sitting with our general manager at the Park Hyatt here in Guangzhou yesterday, and he carries around with him a mini iPad, the small tablet. And I asked him, he mentioned to me that as a result of the efforts that we've undertaken to pull data and allow him to access it on a mobile device like he does, allows him to actually be out in the hotel. But what it also does is there's more leverage in the team, so several of the team members are actually cross-trained across a couple of functions. So this is more at the manager level where we've seen the ability to actually become more productive, that is lower employment base, primarily because of the deployment of technology.
Right. And to what extent, if any, is another big trend, the gig economy, affecting your business? It's probably not necessary for everybody who's currently a full-time employee to be a full-time employee. What are you seeing?
Well, I think the primary areas historically that we've experienced that is having people in remote locations or flexible hours and so forth has been in the context of call centers.
Right.
Service centers and reservation centers that we have around the world. And that's been a tradition that's carried on for many years now. I think, it is necessary, though, for anybody who's engaged with guests to be on property. And with respect to the application of smartphone technology, which is ubiquitous and really is the platform that we all have to pay attention to date, I've not heard of any initiatives that will allow someone to either take a shower in their phone or sleep in their phone.
Right.
And until that happens, I think we're going to be really focused on the leveraging of the technology to enhance the experience as opposed to being really worried about disintermediation.
Right. Mr. Li, the Chinese economy is in the midst of a large-scale shift from being a manufacturing and export hub to an innovation hub. Are you going through that same transition? And how is, I assume so, how is it changing the skills and the people you want?
OK，
China's economy is experiencing very quick changing, and for the enterprises, we need to have this kind of adjustment. First, on the technical level, the enterprises increase their input in the technical terms, and the R&D part is increasing gradually and fastly, and the R&D investment to the total management cost is increasing. And also, we adapted the industrial IoT, plays an important role to upgrade our company. And we have the semiconductor factory. You can seldom see any employees. That means you needn't to turn on the light, and this is very good. And at the same time, the product is easy to be managed during the production, and also we have a lot of upgrading of the technology. At the same time, our products is mainly focused on the customer use, and we now integrated of smart element into our products, and you can use the AI and the internet to do the service and to do the interaction with our customer, and this is very good and provide relevant service.
带来新的价值。
So through this form, we can bring more value to the customers and to the company. Thank you.
Left, but we do have time for questions. Yes, please.
Hi, Nina Easton from Fortune. You know, in the United States, the big problem population when it comes to job disruption are those who don't have college degrees. Nearly 70% of Americans don't have a college degree. They've been left behind in the knowledge economy so far, and very likely are going to be less able to adapt in this new era of innovation. So I was wondering if both of you could look beyond your own companies and in the U.S. Talk about what you think needs to happen both policy-wise and from business leaders to address that population. And in China, is that something that you all and policymakers are thinking about moving forward to help with those folks who don't necessarily have the knowledge? And it's not just skills, it's knowledge and adaptability moving forward in this knowledge economy. Thank you.
我想先讲就。
I'll talk about China first. Take our company, for example. Indeed, in the past 20 years, great changes taken place. In the early stage, our employees are basically migrant workers migrating from rural areas to urban area. Most of them are only graduated from K to 12. At the most, they have very little knowledge, and the skill sets we trained them so that they can do the assembly on the production line. But these people disappeared in our company now. How did we address that problem? First of all, you need to provide more trainings to them. We have a lot of employees. They started from a very simple production line assembler, and then they continue to work and still find their positions here at this time of the day, is because they could learn very quickly, and gradually, after several rounds of training, they become a professional technician so that they can still exist in this company. From the government perspective, the government organized different levels of trainings. We call them vocational training programs or technical training programs, so that the young graduates graduate from primary or secondary school could go through those vocational trainings programs, and then they could find jobs. So these vocational trainings are well-targeted. So trainings, especially for those new workforce, they could be trained and find possibilities to work. And government as well as companies are working both on that. Thank you.
It's an excellent question. Thanks for asking it. Let me just build on what Thompson just said, because there's some parallels here. So the focus on vocational training is essential. This issue, that is having young people who are out of school and out of work, is, I think, maybe the most important issue that we need to focus on in the United States at this point. The population of people who are out of school and out of work is very large and growing, and this is really one of the key drivers of the widely discussed skills gap, income gap, and wealth gap that exists, especially in major cities. And being from Chicago, it's a topic that a lot of people are focused on. Our engagement with this has been through a number of initiatives across companies. There's been efforts among major employers to employ so-called opportunity youth, that is young people who are out of the system right now, to get them into the workforce. So that's one dimension. But as we've investigated this, some of the things that Thompson just mentioned, that is having government engaged, but it's more local and state and local government, I would say more local than anything else, is the critical aspect, because a lot of these young people, you need to solve an ecosystem problem, which is they have family issues. They've got, sometimes they may be the primary breadwinner. They may have a relative, a parent or a sibling that's incarcerated. You could have dependence within the household. It's very complicated. So the ability to bring social services to bear, as well as other specific help, whether that's healthcare or including mental health care or otherwise, is really important. So creating an ecosystem of support is complicated. So you need the combination of local government, businesses, and social services and non-government engagement in order to solve the problem. The short-term issue, in our opinion, is you've got to bring these people into the workforce, give them a pathway to start down the path of learning skills and building skills, and that's the best short-term answer. I think longer-term education systems and things like that need to evolve.
We've got to stop, but this has been so striking to me that in completely different industries, both of you emphasize some of the same themes. Empathy, communication skills, eagerness to learn, those are going to be the high-value characteristics, no matter how jobs change beyond that. It's a really important takeaway for us. Mark Huplemesi and Thompson Lee, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Outside of China, the momentum of its major digital players has been significant as the likes of Tencent, Alibaba, and Baidu ramp up awareness globally. As China becomes more global, so does its influence in showing the global technology world how to build an ecosystem within the mobile phone for the new sharing economy. Let's take a look.
The internet has revolutionized how we live and what we do. Before the internet, you might meet up with friends on the weekend, shop at your favorite store, catch a film at the movie theater, and enjoy dinner out at a restaurant. Today, you might video chat with a friend, shop for clothes online, stream the latest movie, and use a smartphone app to order food for two. This year, global online shopping will generate more than $1.9 trillion. 2.7 billion people are active on social media, and by 2021, the number of global internet users should surpass 4 billion. We're connected more than ever before, and the sharing economy is empowering us to become our own entrepreneurs. The sharing economy is estimated to grow from $14 billion in 2014 to $335 billion by 2025. Now more than ever, consumers have more choices and companies have more competition. They must adapt and innovate if they want to lure customers and survive in today's connected economy.
Good morning, and thanks, Jeff, for setting us up. I'm Clay Chandler. I'm joined here with three very distinguished experts to discuss the subject of platform economies, how we're all connected, and this new sort of gig economy that's evolving on top of these platforms. I'm joined by Nathan Bleczerzak from Airbnb, co-founder, Zhang Zeding, co-founder of OFO, on the far end there, and in the center, Hans Tong from GGV Capital. Three excellent perspectives to be able to approach this topic. I thought maybe I might start with Hans. You've been sort of going in and out. You were kind enough to join us for parts of Brainstorm Tech over the other end of town the other day. What are you learning as in the course of these discussions?
I think it's the first time that Fortune has done Brainstorm Tech outside of the U.S., and it's the first time that the global forum happens in China. So I think I've been going to your events in Aspen. I'm sure Nate has been there as well, and it's fantastic. But having done this in China, you see a different perspective. You see a lot more thinking around. U.S. is great, is amazing, but there's something else called China that's also equally interesting and powerful and growing fast. How the two will interact with each other becomes quite fascinating through all the sessions that we have had over the last few days. So I think it's just very rewarding to see the plethora of perspectives. That's really interesting. I mean, I've had that same perspective as well. You kind of see where models are similar, where they're different, where people are kind of looking each other over, trying to learn. Nate, obviously Airbnb, one of the fantastic platforms that originated from the U.S., a platform that everybody's trying to copy and find spin-offs of. And now you're spending a lot of time here in China. You're overseeing Airbnb's rollout in China. Talk to us a little bit about that and your experience, how much time you're spending here, and how you're going about understanding how to adapt the great platform that's been so successful in this very different market.
Sure. So China is a very important market for us because it is the largest market in the world for travel, both domestically and internationally, and is, of course, continuing to grow. And for that reason, I've taken on the role of chairman of China. So I'm spending about one trip a month to China, and really doing two things. One, making sure that our local team here in Beijing, we have over 100 employees, is fully empowered and basically autonomous. At the same time, bringing to bear the resources of the global organization when necessary. And so I really have a foot in both worlds. We've seen a lot of success here. China is now our fastest growing market in the history of the company domestically, as well as the second fastest growing market in terms of outbound travel. We've had about 10 million Chinese guests use Airbnb, half of that within the last year.
Really? Wow.
And we have 150,000 homes now in China on Airbnb. You know, originally our strategy was to focus on the outbound, but we've quickly seen Chinese guests who've gone abroad come back and spread the idea word of mouth. And so very organically, we've seen this domestic business rise up and become our fastest growing.
That's fascinating. So of those, it's 150,000, is that right? That are
150,000 homes live, active right now in China, and that's doubled over the last year.
And are the people that are staying in those homes, are they primarily Chinese staying in the homes of other Chinese, or are you getting much cross-Pacific traffic and people coming from outside China to stay in those homes?
It's primarily domestic, so Chinese guests staying in Chinese homes. But one of the benefits is our global audience, and so we definitely do have inbound travel, especially into major cities like Shanghai.
Huh. How do you deal with, on the outbound traffic, how do you deal with kind of language issues, cultural issues, people that might be traveling for a first time or something like that?
Well, I think travel is inherently global and cross-cultural, and so I think there's an expectation that you have to have some flexibility in terms of expectations.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have put a huge amount of effort into localization. The site's in 30 different languages. Our support is in many different languages. We also offer tools like embedded translation tools. So if you're having a message through the site, you can in real time translate.
And of the 150,000 properties in China, are they primarily concentrated in certain geographic areas, or are they fairly widely dispersed throughout the market?
Well, they certainly concentrate in cities, as you might expect, but it is also one of the magical things about the platform is, anyone, anywhere can do this. And so I would challenge you to find a place in China or in the world where you can't find an Airbnb. Globally, we have over 4 million homes, 191 countries, over 65,000 cities. So it's pretty much everywhere.
And are you finding that there are things that you have needed to do to adapt the platform to Chinese consumers?
The biggest gains have been in product localization. There's just such a native internet ecosystem here of providers and consumer services that if you really want to maximize conversion, you have to localize the product. So what I mean by that is integrating with WeChat, integrating with the mobile stores, mobile app stores. Localizing with local payments was a huge lift, double-digit improvement in conversion when we did that.
Really? So people can use Alipay or whatever to...
And WeChat Pay.
And then performance has also been really important to make sure that you can serve up the site locally.
Very interesting. How do you handle the... I mean, obviously, if you check into any hotel, which de facto these are hotels in China, you've got to present your passport, you've got to be registered, have some kind of an ID. How do you handle that aspect of it from a kind of regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, well, that process has to be reinvented and pioneered to work with this new model. The good news is, we've seen a lot of support from the government, especially here in China. At the national level, I think there's a huge recognition of the potential of the sharing economy. So they've signaled, this is important. At the local level, we've signed MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with about a dozen different municipalities to basically co-develop home sharing, to acknowledge that this is something that we both want to see happen. We don't have all the specifics figured out, but we're going to engage in dialogue proactively and work through some of these things. And so over time, benefits of a platform is, what are all the things that the platform can take care of so that individuals don't need to worry about it, whether it's payments, customer service, marketing, or GR compliance.
I see. We turn to Sading. OFO, this is one of the amazing platform stories, not just in China, but anywhere. We were discussing this at Brainstorm Tech the other day, but the numbers on how quickly China's bike-sharing companies have rolled out are just staggering. I mean, we mentioned this also in Aspen this summer, but the bike-sharing's been around a long time in the United States. There are a number of, maybe 50 cities that are started in Denver and kind of has spread from there. But the Bike Sharing Association from all these metropolitan governments did a study last year, and they were boasting about the fact that they had achieved a record number of bike rentals for the year, and it was, I think, 28 million. So tell us what your traffic is in terms of bike shares on a daily, monthly basis.
OK， 实际上，其实我们在做这个共享单车这个事儿的时候，
In the shared bicycles, that was in 2015. I was still in the school at that time. After 1 year's rapid development, by the end of 2016, we just announced that we will make our inroads to cities. To date, we have entered the 20 countries. We have fulfilled our goals. The 20th destination is Paris of France. That means we have made deployments over 200 cities of 20 countries. The shared bikes has gained such a strong momentum of growth. The shared bicycles are everywhere. I think the customers' demands are the major drivers for this development. In the first place, in the beginning, we validated this process in the small areas, but now we are making it into a college and expand our business everywhere. I see our growth is quite monumental. On our platform, we have over 10 million shared bikes on our platform, and the daily ordering was about 32 million. Taobao is the largest trading platform in China. We are owning next to it.
So about 30 million per day. Is that right?
32 million.
32 million
per day, yeah.
Okay, and 10 million bikes around the world.
Yeah.
So global cities now, so you're in 200 cities around the world, but how many of those are non-Chinese?
50座城市.
Okay.
50 cities.
So in those cities outside of China, as you expand into them, what are you, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Nate, which is how do you take a model that was developed for consumers in China, and have you had to adapt it to conditions in other markets? What have you done?
对于全球化扩张，实际
For our global expansion, we have our own idea. We might adopt the different models in foreign countries because they are quite different from China. For example, the cultural difference. The non-Chinese countries will have very unique cultures. The bicycle riding culture is prevailing in foreign countries, including Europe and the US, and now transportation network is well developed. So now Operation for shared bikes is different from China. That means we need to make some adjustments or adapt the model. What did we do? Before we enter a city, we will make a list, a checklist. Yeah, on the checklist, we will cover the information, including the demographic distribution, geo situations, or the popularity of the bicycle riding culture, what now daily travel or transportation models. On the basis of this checklist, we will keep checking which destination or which city is a better target for us. Besides, we need to communicate with the local government. For example, before we went to a city in Italy, we know that we have making some operations in Milano of Italy. The frequency of bicycle sharing in Milano is nearly on par with the first-tier cities in China, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, which really surprised us. But it doesn't mean that we are making deployments or put our bicycles blindfoldedly. We want to establish good bonds with the local government, for example, to sign the MOE and to fulfill the regulatory requirements of the local government.
The amazing photos of bikes that are kind of piled up in places around the cities that, either riders just kind of use them and toss them. One of the difficulties with the bike sharing, of course, as you know, is that often you get people that want to ride the bikes to one place, but they don't want to ride them back. For example, if it's a hilly terrain, they're happy to ride it downhill, but they don't want to, especially in the summer, ride it back uphill again. And my sense is that in China, the authorities have been a little more tolerant of bikes piling up on city streets and not being dispersed in a kind of efficient way than authorities in municipal areas in the United States might be. And particularly in the US, the bike sharing model is often a partnering model with the municipal government. So in a sense, you've got to get regulatory approval from the partner of your competitor in that local area. How do you handle that problem?
实际上是这样，就是我觉得我们
In actual fact, we consider us as a startup. We need to address the problems. When we encounter problems, we shouldn't be fearful of the problems. In the beginning, There might be the piling of the shared bicycles, or the bicycles will be vandalized or damaged by some people intentionally. We have several ways to deal with it. Number one, we need to research on the users' demands and the user behaviors. Why do they damage our shared bicycles? Does that mean that we do not have enough bicycles, or just want to make some intentional damages? Our personal thinking that if the demand is not big enough, how can we meet the users' demands scientifically and reasonably? If they want to make some damages intentionally, we have a credit system. When users are making use of bicycles, their behaviors will be recorded. On the basis of your using experience or user record, we will score and rate so that we can regulate the behaviors. If you damage our bicycles intentionally, that means in the future you are not entitled to make use of our shared bicycles. In actual fact, in the foreign countries competition, we need to communicate with local partners or competitors. We know that in the US, they are home to a lot of US-based shared biking companies. We might compete against them. But for OFO, we want to find our own operational approach and to locate the user's demands more accurately.
One of the companies that you're invested in, Linebike, which is sort of in this space. Linebike is an amazing story. It is a bunch of, three co-founders? Is that maybe?
Two co-founders.
Two co-founders. They're both originally born in China.
Yes.
They went to school in the Bay Area.
That's right.
They worked for
Tencent.
Western companies, they worked for Chinese companies, and then realized that what OFO and Mobike and the 30 other companies that are in this space in China were doing was actually a really great idea. Came to you, raised a bunch of money, some other people, and off to the races. I guess Andreessen Horowitz is a big backer of them, is that right? So why would we, who should we bet on to succeed in the US market? I mean, it's just interesting to me. We've got these we have the kind of homegrown Chinese competitors versus the local Chinese competitors, but they're both the dominant players in the space, it looks like.
The short answer is that different category will predispose selection of different kind of winners. So taking Airbnb as an example, we're investing in Airbnb. We're also investing in Tujia in China. And we look at them actually, even though it's a similar model, but very different customer segmentation, and the community feel of those two companies with the users are also quite different. So because travel is a global sector, we think that Airbnb will do very well, and in China, Tujia can take a certain segment of the population and do very well as well. So they could be orthogonal to each other, even though they're in the same space. So we think there could be multiple winners in that area. On this end, we're an investor in number 3 player, Hello Bike. That's now backed by Alibaba and Financial. As you know, Tencent backed Mobike, and Didi backed OFO. So these are 3 players in China, all going after different parts of China and competing and overlapping and stuff. And at the same time, like you pointed out, we're also investing in Linebike, because in the US, like you pointed out, there's more regulation. In China, because transportation is such a big problem, that you need ride sharing and bike sharing, both of them, in the short term to alleviate the traffic congestion issue. So the government will be more tolerant of innovation in that category. In the US, you don't have as much of a problem. So the municipalities want everything being more in order. So we think that OFO will do well in US, or can do well in the US, but somebody who is more local, understand how the model should be working, because they know China well. Someone who knows both places can deal more effectively with the municipalities in the US and expand accordingly.
And how big is Linebike now?
I don't think they have disclosed any public figure yet, so I can't say. So I think they have raised at least one round of financing that you mentioned, Andreessen Horowitz was a part of, and there are other stuff going on that I'm at liberty to say, but it's definitely growing extremely fast in more than 20 cities. And it's fascinating to see a team that understands what's needed to compete in the US, and their hours are 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. And then when I need to talk to them on Sunday, they're available too. And they're growing, they're moving as fast as a Chinese company but with American sensibilities in the U.S.
So this is why I think this is such a great, fascinating panel, because what we have here, as you can kind of hear, is the two examples of a platform model that has actually managed to kind of go beyond borders and to be rolled out in the other border. I mean, you know, we all know that the media-focused companies, China, those don't fly. Google's not here, Facebook's not here, you know, Twitter's not here. But here's Airbnb, that's got the best shot of any Chinese internet company of really making it probably in China. And then we know that similarly in the United States, there are CFIUS problems with lots of other kind of Chinese investments and rollouts of businesses in China. I mean, just the other day, DJI got into some snit with the US government about were they spying via consumer drones on American properties. So there's that kind of resistance. But if any model has a chance of succeeding as a Chinese kind of model that rolls out to the US, it's bike sharing. So these are the kind of two classic examples of platforms that can really go global in other markets. I want to open it up to your questions. I'll just have one quick question for Nate and before we do that, and because I know that there should be some good queries from the audience. Hans mentioned Tuja. Tuja also big investors there are C-Trip and then Asia All-Stars, was Richard G's investment fund. I sat down with Richard for about an hour the other day, and he sort of explained to me this theory of why he thought that Tuja was going to be more successful in China, which I'm sure you've heard this, but I'm interested to get your response to it. His argument was that the B2C play was not going to be as successful in China, that the real way to go and what Tuja is trying to do is to work with developers, that there's all this empty property that people hold for investment purpose in China, but that they don't really utilize, it's lying empty, and that the way to work with developers was to take that property and attach a bunch of services to it, to have a cleaning service, to have a kind of on-site concierge, to then book it, you know, attach travel services to it. So that, and then he is even saying that they were looking at things like working with local governments to say, hey, we're going to take we'll take tourists from Yunnan province and we'll bring them to Guangdong, and we'll take tourists from Guangdong, we'll take them to Yunnan, and we'll be the broker in the middle of those kind of exchanges of package tours. That sounds like a pretty credible approach to the Chinese market. Why would you think that your approach would be more successful than the Tuja style of working with developers and government as opposed to the sort of retail consumer?
Sure. Well, I think that's definitely one of a couple different ways to contrast the companies. You know, I think we are famous for kind of pioneering the C2C model of home sharing, and that has led to our success globally. If it had been any other way, we would not be in 191 different countries, 65,000 different cities. So I think one of the great advantages of C2C is how quickly it can scale, and also how differentiated the experiences are. I think the challenge with kind of a more central management structure is both how heavy it is in terms of operational cost and complexity as it gets bigger, as well as, you know, the standardization that comes with it. Now, I think standardization, there's a good side and a bad side. You know, the good side is the consistency. The bad side is, you know, it ends up being kind of all the same, less differentiated, and therefore less personalization as possible. I think one of the magical things about Airbnb is, you know, literally anything you can imagine you can find on Airbnb. You know, you want a big house, we have that. You want a small apartment with a great view, we have that. You want a cave, we have that. I mean, it just, you can't get that level of differentiation in a model that is where you're buying out, you know, 10 apartments in the same building all at once. So I think, you know, it's important to play to your strengths, and I think we've even in the China market where you might argue there needs to be more handholding, we say we're going to stick to the C2C model. But if people need help with cleaning and things like that, there's other ways to get those services. We don't have to provide it for you. We can maybe create a marketplace or connect you with trusted service providers.
It's interesting.
I might do this.
Sure.
A lot of us have heard of the phrase sea turtles.
Yes.
Chinese that went to the U.S., got educated, worked in the U.S., come back, sea turtles. Now there's a trend of city turtles, people who live in big cities. It's getting super cramped. More and more thinking going back to the villages where the cities that they came from, and start bed and breakfast services
Right.
to make it easier for people who want to get away from the big city on weekends to enjoy themselves and have a variety of experiences.
Right.
And that trend is what Airbnb is capturing in the domestic Chinese for Chinese market. And those are not the people that will work with developer. They're not going to work with the government. They're doing stuff on their own and providing a variety of experiences for other people like themselves who want to get away from the city.
You mentioned the importance of kind of differentiating and sort of customizing the site to what individuals want. But yet, if I remember your comments the other day at Brainstorm Tech, you said that you also thought it was important that there was a kind of a one Airbnb kind of standardized experience that people recognize the brand as being relatively universal and coherent. How do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in conflict with each other. I think our challenge is when you do a search and in let's say Shanghai, and you see 17,000 properties are available. Right. How do we merchandise that in a way that you can easily navigate it and find what meets your expectations while still supporting so many other things that might be outside of what you're looking for?
Yes, we got a question here. Can you stand up and tell us your name?
Thanks, Clay. My name is Dr. Lu, Ware Group China President. I want to follow your question on the piling back thing, if you allow, to deepen our thinking about how to make the shared economy platform workable for us. When Siding responded that question, he explained understanding end users' need is the way going forward. But I don't think that's the complete answer, because that's only a matter of the issue. I think from my observation, there's a missing point, that is lack of social engagement.
Sorry, lack of social
engagement.
Yeah.
And it reflects how those entrepreneurs, when they fast move ahead, consider at the same time an overall engagement strategy to make that innovation really work.
Yeah.
And engage with authorities, regulators, alternative transport means, and the consumer as well. So I would like to ask further that question: do you have an overall engagement strategy, particularly from social responsibility point of view?
That's a great question, and especially in the context of Han's observation about China having this 996 always go, go, go culture. It's sometimes hard to roll out a social engagement strategy when you're just trying to get your bikes on the corner, right, and beat the competitors. Siding, do you have an answer to that?
这个是一个非常有趣的问题啊。
It's a very interesting question. And speaking of the bike sharing industry, it developed really quickly, first of all, and secondly, for the cities, especially in China, the urban planning and design cannot be catching up in a short time period to adapt themselves to the bike sharing industry. And there might be some issues, and those are within our expectation, but we need to find a solution. From a company itself, we need to balance the distribution of the bicycles. Instead of the peak traffic time, though all those cars are piled around the subway station, we need to find a user technology to address that distribution, equally distribution solution for the bikes. And also we need the other stakeholders to participate to maintain the social order, because the cities and bikes have a certain relationship, very simple, but it needs the participation not only from the companies, but also, for example, the NGOs. That's what we're working on. We work with those civil societies and NGOs to do some market education. So apart from a company itself, where we need to work on, we also need the other organizations as well as individuals to maintain the social order. Because at the end of the day, it is good for the city, good for everybody. Let's do it together so that the social environment in the city could be maintained.
NGOs, what kind of NGOs are we talking about? You're not talking about bike riding associations. You're talking about what?
我们其实在广州。
In Guangzhou, we have some industrial association. They are working on the education of the bicycle safety. And also in different cities in China, especially in some we have some party member advertising team. They will work with the street managers as well as the organizations, and then we will provide reminder if there is accumulation of or piling of a bike at a certain area. Reminder on the platform telling our employees that we need to send people to address that piling issue, and also in this process we communicate certain. We establish a mechanism to communicate. And meanwhile, we are working with those competent authority as well as stakeholders to address the problem. Because in a larger scope, we would like to connect everybody instead of relying on ourselves to operate everything.
Nate, do you have a thought?
I might just add, I think it's incredibly important to build a value proposition for all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. Government's obviously a huge one. The most common thing that governments care about around the world is taxes. In that regard, we've helped facilitate the collection of taxes in 300 different municipalities. We've collected $300 million to date. But governments also care about other things. You know, here in China, bringing the benefits of digital economy to rural areas is an important theme and topic. And in that regard, we did a partnership with a village in Guilin, where we've taken some villagers and we've put them on the Airbnb platform and helped them to provide authentic rural experiences. And so I think there's a lot of creative ways in which you can build bridges between, you know, this new stuff and stakeholders that might not know how to engage it, but with some creative thinking, you can build a bridge.
That's fascinating. Other questions? See any other paddles here? No? Don't be shy. This is a great group. I want to ask, you were discussing issues of keeping track of the data and who's using bikes where, and this is an issue for you as well. The bike sharing companies are interesting because they're all backed by
giants now.
Giant tech companies that are hungry not just for the profits that they might make from the bike sharing themselves, but are really looking at the data as a real kind of gold mine for them, that they can draw all kinds of other conclusions about how to sell to people, services that they can provide. You know, you do a fair amount of that as well, trying to figure out how to make the model more successful. One issue for you, I suspect, is the data. Where does it live, the data that's collected in China? How are you affected by the new cybersecurity laws and regulations in China?
Well, we're licensed here in China. We have an ICP license, and with that comes the responsibility around data and other things. And so, you know, Chinese data lives in China. And it takes a great deal of investment to make that possible. But, you know, over the span of it took a year and a half, we've been able to do that segmentation.
Right. So in the U.S., OFO, the payment is handled normally how? Alipay is not really that prominent in the U.S. for OFO, so what do you do?
In different countries, when we are making overseas expansion, now payment methodology will be the major problem in face of us. That is not only the case in the US or in the European countries, because the European customers will prefer consumption by making use of credit card. In our product philosophy, we do not force the users to change consumption habits in this part. In our technological research and development, we are making deployments in the smart locks. You can swipe your credit cards to make payments, but if the users are willing to scan the QR code, and then payments will also be supported of them. We know that OFO is universally used in the world. I hope that our product can provide a better service, deliver better customer experience for our users, not only in China, but in the world. The same case, we want to aiming for provide better convenience for our customers all across the world. You can swipe a card, scan the QR code, or the NFC technologies. You can make payments very conveniently. That is what we will do in the future.
OFO could be a way to kind of help Alipay to expand overseas. I mean, because you could argue, obviously, that the best way for you to ensure that consumers have a smooth consumer experience is to use the payment app that works most effectively in your largest market. Are you trying to, I mean, is there any pressure from Alibaba to make sure that, from Ant Financial to make sure that you encourage overseas users to discover the magic and wonder of Alipay?
其实
In actual fact, as we will know, we have numerous investors, not only including Alibaba. Didi is also investing in us. We have a lot of cooperative partners. We have a lot of resources can be shared. In foreign countries, with the popularity of mobile payment, we are cooperating with Alipay in this part. But what's more important, we want to discuss on how to ensure smooth user experience. Internally, we have a team, which is very interesting to tell. Our team has been working in joint efforts with the QR code scanning team of Alipay. You may think the QR coding scanning is very simple, but we have a team of over 10 employees working on improving the experience. So even you are in the remote answers,
All right.
It's a very eloquent diplomatic answer, but it sure
I was going to say.
This is why Tencent and Alibaba both pour so much money into ride sharing.
Right.
And we saw that in 2013, 2014 in Kuaidi and Didi, and the same is being played out in bike sharing as well.
Right. Fascinating. So the data that you collect, I mean, people to use OFO bikes in the United States, they download an OFO app is how they use it, right? And that unlocks the lock. How do you collect that data? Where does that data go? Does it have to live on servers in the United States, just like Nate's China data has to live here?
对，关于用户。
Yes, about the user's data, we follow a basic principle. Number one, we want to ensure the security and privacy of the user data. We cannot leak or abuse the data of users. We might follow different approaches in foreign countries. In China, we have a data center. All the users' data will be recorded through now using experience. We are primarily making use of data to analyze now behaviors, which can facilitate our operational service. Besides, we can provide some consultancy or advisory service for the local planning authorities. But in foreign countries, we will set up our European-based data center, which will be in line with the regulations and laws in European countries. That means we will do our utmost to ensure the security and privacy of the data. We will never open our data to the third party. 你在美国
It's not legally, the way it is in China with the cybersecurity law, you're not legally, you don't have to. You could bring the data back to servers in China if you wanted, right?
其实我们在
When obtaining this data, we need to comply with the local laws and regulations. We cannot do it in the unregulated countries. So we have a legal complaints or legal affairs department in terms of users' data. We want to ensure that we need to insist on our principles, especially security for the utilization of data. 我们还有几秒。
One thing he pointed out is talent flow.
Yeah.
Because as you have all these unicorns that's emerging, especially in US and China, and you have all this talent who have experience and trained in one market, you can see the talent flow to other markets and try to incorporate what they have learned and make it bigger somewhere else.
Is it likely we could see a Line Bike OFO tie-up of some sort?
They were rumored that they were discussing earlier. I think there's always room for imagination, whether it's with OFO or Mobike or Hello Bike. But I think Line Bike also have a great opportunity to stay independent and go after US and even parts of Europe. So I think it's going to be very fun to see how involved.
Watch this space. Gentlemen, thank you. Great panel.
Thank you.
Thank them very much. Terrific. Thanks, Hans. In the last decade, China's box office has seen enormous growth, from $140 million to more than $6 billion today. There has been also a rise of Chinese investments in Hollywood. As of last year, Chinese investments in the U.S. film industry reached over $5 billion. This, combined with the preference for passive engagement with information and for increasing affinity with social media, is changing the way entertainment is delivered. To discuss the convergence of these factors and what insights we can gain from them, please welcome Li Ruigan, Robert Simons, with Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Good morning. From film enthusiasts to gamers and theme park attendees, Chinese consumers represent a huge fan base and even bigger disposable income. And so we're going to spend a half hour here talking with two of the leaders in media and entertainment today, both here in China and in the West, and talk about what the future of entertainment looks like in China. I have a great interest in this for many reasons. One, I was partners with Li Ruigan in starting a company called Oriental DreamWorks. I had the great pleasure of literally coming here once a month for 7 years. I'll say that again, once a month for 7 years. And just found it one of the most amazing and rewarding parts of my work at DreamWorks. And I've seen firsthand the growing importance and opportunity here in China. And so with that, I'm not sure that Li Ruigan actually needs an introduction. He is known as the Rupert Murdoch of China. Not sure what that means, but I've read it somewhere, so I'll repeat it again just so we can keep the mythology going. Ruigan has the founder and chairman of CMC, which is China's first fund dedicated to media and entertainment investments in China and abroad. From 2002 to 2011, he was chairman and CEO of Shanghai Media Group, growing it into China's leading media conglomerate. Interestingly, at 33 years old, which is when he began that company, he was the youngest media entrepreneur in China. 9 years later, when he left, he was still the youngest. So, as I say, I'm proud to say that I had the privilege of being partners with Ruigan in building the first state-of-the-art animation studio here in China. Bob Simons is the founder, chairman, and CEO of STX Entertainment. Created in 2014, it includes among its investors such major Chinese companies as Hony Capital, Tencent, and PCCW, making it the only entertainment company of its kind with significant Chinese ownership. In just a very short time, STX has become an important full-service studio with production and worldwide distribution of films, television, digital, and virtual reality media. Before STX, which is where I first met Bob, he was one of the most successful producers in Hollywood, and with his expertise was comedy, and I think his movies at the time had grossed something like $6 billion, which is why he's looking so healthy. So the two of you are very experienced in the field of entertainment, but bring obviously very, very different perspectives to the Chinese market, very different approaches. So let me ask actually both of you, start with sort of the same question, which is what is unique and distinct about the Chinese audience at this particular moment in time? So Ruigan, want to go?
Yes, thank you, Jeffrey. I think to answer this question, I think I would like to touch let's say three dimensions. First of all, I think where is the new audience, let's say. So I think right now in China, the trend of the urbanization, and also the trend of the huge, the high penetration of internet and mobile, really create a lot of opportunities, the new audience. I mean, not only in the past, all the demand, most of the demand actually came from the top tier cities. But right now, because of the technology, because of the urbanization, so the huge demand is coming from the lower tier cities. I was here just yesterday. I went to a small town called Xiaolan. Actually, it's like fourth tier, even fifth tier, cities, small town, in the whole hierarchy of the Chinese political, system. The governor of that small town told me he's going to build a cultural sports complex, by putting 1.8 billion RMB, roughly 300 million USD, and it's just small town. I mean, with population 300,000, and they would like to put such huge investment in building, the facilities. So when those facilities are available, and also the people in those, in those lower tier cities, I mean, they're creating a lot of demand. So that's one thing. The second thing I want to, emphasize is the younger demographic. I mean, those younger demographic actually is enabled or empowered by the new technology. And they become the news stream, or the mainstream for the content's consumption. And adjacent to that, the third dimension would be especially those younger demographic, they're willing to pay. So you can see the pay model, especially for the high premium contents, would be a major change, I mean, in China, in terms of the overall content consumption. Yeah.
So first off, I have to say, it's just to you guys, it's a huge honor to be sitting up here with both of you. I mean, I think you guys realize these are two of the giants of industry, both in the past and today, which is kind of awesome when you look at how both of you have thrived over the years and just keep getting more and more influential. So first, I just had to get that out of the way. I guess there are a few things that have shocked me in terms of the market, and it's beyond just scale. Everyone talks about how big the market is, but what I find really fascinating is how quickly it changes. It's the fastest changing audience base anywhere in the world. And one of the things that's amazing about the Chinese consumer is that they learn, they adapt, and then they move on with a pace that I can't think of another culture that's doing. And that creates a really interesting opportunity for content creators because you're constantly trying to keep up with where the audience is. And back in America, as we were just kind of like making movies and TV shows, you kind of knew what the audience was, and you're playing to the audience, and it was very, very slow. And you could make a lot of money if you figured out how to hit that beat over and over again. Finding in China, that's a very, very different changing landscape. And that's a really cool and exciting opportunity. Another thing is that it feels like as China, as the standard of living continues to increase, we're going to clearly get a much larger insistence on access to even better entertainment and more entertainment. Which again, I think from my standpoint is a really cool thing. I mean, it's really big right now and it's going to continue to grow. But for me, the most interesting part of this is how the Chinese have been able to adopt new technology in a way that is completely not very American. So when I look at the advances that are being made in online ticketing, or in virtual reality and being in location-based in theaters, these are two things where in America we can sit back and say, yeah, that's where we're going to go. But the consumer has been so trained in a certain way that it's a little slower. Here, it's just amazingly fast. And I look at some of the stuff that's going on with online, and it's incredible, particularly when.
So good. Yeah. So let me just for a moment, let's kind of steer right at let's just talk about the movie business itself, because in a very, very short period of time, just a couple of years, there has been this very fast evolution of the movie market here in China. So one, extraordinary scale. In another year or two, China will be the largest movie market in the world. When we started together years ago, I think there was this ambition to bring Western storytelling to China. That was the Holy Grail. And I'll let you comment on the degree to which it worked and didn't work. What has worked, clearly, recently, in the last year, 2 or 3, has been ambitious, blockbuster films made in China for China. And they have succeeded on their own terms and their own merits. They're not Western in any fashion, shape, or form. So you're coming at it, bringing Western resources here. You come at it from a place where you've watched firsthand, you know, how Monster Hunt suddenly, out of nowhere, becomes the biggest movie ever in China, and now more recently with Warrior. And so what's your point of view about this? What is the future? What's the future of China in China? What's the future of China exported to the rest of the world? And what's the future of Hollywood in China? Simple questions. Answer those in 2 minutes.
So Jeffrey, you know, you and I talked a lot about, you know, the, let's say, the Western style or Hollywood, typically Hollywood style of storytelling in the past when we started our business together. I think that's very, you know, very popular, hot conversation, you know, going forward. My sense is, first of all, even though we have, you know, the system of quarter, right, imported movie for imported movies, even though we have the system of censorship, Western contents still I think still occupy a lot of people's, you know, time for consuming contents, you know, online, you know, because on traditional conventional TV, very limited for foreign contents, but online there are a lot. I mean, so you can see that, you know, as I just mentioned, the younger demographic, they're familiar with the, you know, the format of storytelling from Hollywood side. And those formats actually gradually educate their taste. And they become more and more, you know, acceptable to those Western storytelling formats. So that's the reason I think this trend eventually, gradually, influence the local industry, local sector, creative sector. So you can see that right now, even the local movies with a high box office, they try to learn from, and they try to, change the model, the format, tailored to the Western style or the Hollywood style storytelling. So the movies you just mentioned, this Monster Hunter, and also the recent the War Warriors. Actually, if you look at those movies, if you watch the movies, you can feel it's the story is China story, right? Basically, with a lot of China background and elements. However, the pace, the rhythm, and then the mechanism of presenting the story is Hollywood. It's Hollywood. So that's the reason I think going forward, two sides will work together more closely than before. And that's the reason recently in Shanghai, we are working with your friend, Dr. Jiang, his school, Shanghai Tech. Shanghai Tech is working with USC Film School to create a program inviting the writers, the directors and the faculties from USC Film School to teach in Shanghai. So we have the mass class, working with the local talents, So I think that's that's one thing, one aspect. The other aspect I just want to discuss is about the you just mentioned if China is going to replace, the exportation of the contents. I think it's still a long way to go, because it's not about one hit, not about one movie creating huge box office. One hit doesn't means too much. The system, I think, is the major thing we have to consider. Hollywood is a system. Everything is about an industry. It's a systematic way of creating contents in a long way. So it's about education, about talent management, the system of talent management, about the whole system of the creative production, and even financing. So it's an industrial. So China right now, I think, to be honest, is still behind because of the system. It's an industrialized system for creating premium contents in a sustainable way. So that's my comments.
Bob?
Thank you for saying that. I mean, what's interesting is that I agree with everything you just said, but it does feel very much like we're at an inflection point where, I mean, I think you all know this. I mean, traditionally, America has exported sort of two things. We've exported military and we've exported culture. And that's about to change. And part of the reason that we were able to export culture was because we were, at the time, the one country in the movie business. We were the one country that had a big enough and vibrant enough domestic audience that we were able to build out the infrastructure that Regang is talking about to not just satisfy our domestic audience, but then start projecting it into the outside world. For the first time in history, because remember this, the Italians, the French, the Germans, they'd make great movies, but they didn't have the infrastructure and the business to project out. For the first time ever, globally, that is changing, where you now have in China an audience, a domestic audience, which is, you know, Mermaids doing $500 million, Wolf Warrior 2 did, I think, $850 million US. These are giant numbers. And you've reached this inflection point where, for the last few years, there may have been some talk, but the local Chinese producers were much more interested in making movies for China and the Chinese audience because there was so much there that you now feel very much that there's an eagerness to start making movies on a global basis, in earnest. Now, what's interesting about something like Wolf Warrior 2, which is a Chinese film with, as you guys were saying, some Western elements, the irony is that a lot of the action in that film is very Western. It's very much like Avengers or like Captain America. Ironically, the Russo brothers, who directed Captain America, actually did those sequences. They were uncredited, but they were actually there doing a lot of the work. And the result was amazing. But what it does feel like is that there isn't, I say that as a caveat because I don't actually think the Americans have anything to teach the Chinese. The truth is, when you have this big an audience that is so successful here, I think where this will end up is Americans saying, this is what we've learned about the rest of the world. What can you teach us about China? And in China, they come together. So I do think it's a big
So when you set out to make a movie today, how much are you thinking about the China market first, particularly given your investors and your interest here in China? Is that a first thought, a second thought, a non-thought?
It's a great question. It's always on the table. So given the fact that we need to make, market, and distribute 12 to 15 movies a year, and because you need volume and scale to keep your system vibrant and to keep the pipes full, what we do is we focus our energy within that on certain projects that some of our partners, whether it's Tencent or Alibaba, that we can sit down and talk about how to do what we call a proper co-production. Now, we've all seen those movies where they're Chinese with some Americans, or they're an American film with some Chinese. They're not really working. They're making all their money in one market and a little bit somewhere else, or one audience is responding to it in the other. We had actually just, probably a small example, but we had just done what we think is a proper co-production with Jackie Chan called The Foreigner. It was a small $35 million film. It'll do about $150 million worldwide when the smoke clears, and that's just box office. Half of the money came out of China, half of the money came out of the rest of the globe. That was one of our goals going in. The other one was we got an A Cinema score in China and A Cinema score outside of China. We wanted to speak to both audiences. But how we approach that and how we're approaching this going forward is to literally sit down and have a conversation with our Chinese partners and say, thematically, will this work? And that's not something that I was shocked. That's not something that we'd seen before. So whether it's Tencent or Alibaba, they're used to writing checks and getting the rights. They're not used to sitting down at the table and actually talking about how to co-do this. This is probably something you guys did a lot at DreamWorks, Oriental DreamWorks. But when we sit down, it's very much at the let's find the common ground.
So having these two leading giants, both Tencent and Alibaba, as partners, investors in your business, what do they do for you here in China? How are they impacting your business? What are the resources that they're able to bring? What's the advantage that you have today versus the guy down the block?
So one of the interesting things is, Tencent, who's one of our owners, you can't go through the day in China without touching Tencent. It's just, they right? And what we find when we deal with them is they give us a point of view creatively on what they think will work. They have access to data that we don't have. They have their finger on a pulse of what they think will resonate here. Because when I was younger, I produced a bunch of comedies. In fact, I worked for Jeffrey on a number of those comedies. Comedies don't travel, but emotional resonance does. So it's forced me and my team into a position where you try to find that universal theme, that thing that speaks to the heart everywhere else. And I can't fall back on just something as simple as a comedy. Our partners in China creatively help us find that theme and those values that resonate across all cultures. It's much more than just, hey, cast this person or cast that person.
And once you've made that movie and you go to release a movie here in China, what's the leverage? What's the resources that that you get from these companies and the power of their platforms?
It's amazing. I mean, look, we were the beneficiaries of just referring to it again, just because it's recent, the Foreigner, the Jackie Chan movie. We were released during Golden Week. Now, it's a co-production, but we had Chinese partners, and we were placed in a super, super profitable release window that the government and the powers that be were able to sort of carve out a nice runway so you could just chug along. This is something that we don't have the benefit of in America. I mean, when we release 12 to 15 movies, when Jeffrey was running Disney, you were releasing 25 movies a year. We're all piling on the same dates, and there's a lot of cannibalization, and there's a lot of chaos and a lot of fighting to get that audience. And what we're seeing here is that depending on your partners, it's a much more organized, thoughtful approach, like a lot of things here.
So, Regan, talk about on the investor side of the business. In 2016, there was, I think, just over $4.5 billion of investment capital from China into Hollywood. In 2017, it will be less than 400 million. ¿Qué pasa?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I mean, maybe 2 points around this topic. First of all, I think government is sensitive, and they're sending a lot of warnings to the entertainment sector to do overseas investments. And some of the company actually who are very ambitious in this area, they had very high leverage in the domestic market. So government is concerned about, that would, to some extent jeopardize the local banking system. So that's, I think, the original thought from the government perspective. On the other side, I think China investors, especially, need to be more sophisticated. I mean, to some extent, from the Western, world, you guys look at China, there are a lot of dumb money, right? To some extent.
Not me, I never use that word.
I mean, but it's a fact, you know, to some extent.
Well, listen, every part of the world has dumb money. There's nothing unique about China in that. There's some there's some incredibly smart, brilliant.
Sure, definitely.
Smart as money as you can get in China, but you know, there are people that maybe are not sophisticated and don't understand it, but that happened. Money came out of, you know, Germany and Italy and the UK and India, and like the list is endless. It's not, there's nothing unique about it.
So I think, you know, slowing down the pace of the investment, let, you know, all those investors getting mature might take some time. And I think there will be some lessons from all those investments.
So do you think investment will pick back up, that they'll be smarter, more sophisticated,
I'm sure,
learning, and they'll, you know,
I think the learning curve should be, you're already there, right? So some people take lessons, some people will continue to proceed. And I see the momentum is still there. You know, the basic, I think the logic, or also, as also my belief is, going forward, I think you can see the trend. I mean, globally, US, North America, still the major, you know, market for the content consumption, right? So China is coming up. And my belief is China and the US, or the North America and China, will be two engines to drive the whole, you know, whole media entertainment globally. So I think those exchanges, you know, cross-border investments, overseas investments, still will go forward.
So something we talked a lot about, I think probably still continues today, one of the pillars of soft power was how can China compete not only with its content that is made here in China, but importantly, how does China become an exporter to the rest of the world? How do you jump that hurdle, which truly has not happened yet? Do you have a path to do that? Is there a strategy to accomplish that today? Because right now, it's pretty much a one-way street. Western content comes here, even when you have these blockbuster hits, you know, Wolf Warrior and Monster Hunt, two phenomenal movies. They did not travel the rest of the world. How important and how do you overcome that?
I think first of all, I mean, this kind of the move, you know, from the domestic market, the contents from domestic market gradually can be traveled around the world. This move is not a purely a government-oriented, task. It should be a market, you know, at least it's marketized, you know, aggregating a lot of forces from the market. And what I can see positively, first, I think the market is aware of, you know, we need expertise. You know, for example, we just mentioned storytelling. We need all those format expertise and professionally. And then we can translate, we can present our story in a way which the whole world, especially the Western world, can appreciate.
So, Bob, on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sort of tying together something that you both said, which is kind of really interesting, which is Jeffrey's talking about soft power, which is the projection of values and projection of culture and projection of thoughts. And you're talking about slowing down the investments in Hollywood for a whole bunch of reasons which you had laid out. It is tied to that inflection point of the realization that you know, we oftentimes forget that those of us in this silly word called entertainment, which is really more media, is a public trust. I mean, what we put out into the world is affects people. It affects the way they not just feel, but it can affect the way they think, especially if an idea catches hold. And it's a very potentially dangerous situation. And when you've got so much size and explosive growth happening in China, it's a really interesting dynamic.
So, but in my partnership with Raygon, one of the things that he imposed on me was to say, I need stories that have an authenticity and an origin in China that can be told in a Western way and exported to the rest of the world. The best example of that was Kung Fu Panda. Absolutely. And he said, as your partner, you must replicate that path, not exactly that movie, but that idea as a goal. He imposed that on our partnership, and I didn't feel, I mean, it was a good imposition. Didn't hinder us in any fashion, shape, or form. It just added yet another dimension. How much are your partners asking, demanding that of you?
Great question. So, never overtly. And the way we sort of look at this is, I look at something that was a fabulous global hit like Kung Fu Panda. I'm not sure at that point, I think we might have talked about this, that a lot of the things that you were doing that made the film so appealing would have actually gotten cleared when you did them. And maybe that will have changed by now. But
that's a decade ago.
Yeah, so, but I mean, but
very different environment today.
But I think one of the frustrations that a lot of American entertainment companies have found, and I don't share this frustration, has been they look at China as a market that they need to reach their hand in and pull out as much as they possibly can. And there's a force pushing back, which can be SARFT, which is the state agency for film, television, and radio, that basically says what clears and what doesn't clear. And the American attitude is constantly, how can I get around those rules? How can I negotiate getting around those rules? And it causes a lot of friction. One of the things that we've worked very much with our partners on is to try to approach that from the opposite side, which is, what are we trying to thematically embrace? I mean, are we trying to understand that film can be educational, and you want things that are aspirational and kindness, and what values are you actually trying to promote? And that, for me, is the biggest difference in terms of our partners.
Good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just very quickly, 2 points, adding to my comments. I think besides the expertise of doing good movie, good contents, I think another 2 points we should emphasize is, one is it will be relying on the innovation and evolvement of our ideology. That's one thing. Second thing is, I think, popular technology. A lot of new applications will help China, this soft power exportation.
So we only got a minute left here. Yep. Tell us, what's the future of location-based entertainment and sports here in China? And you have 1 minute to do it in.
Definitely, I think that's the area we are focused. I think those areas will be a potential great, opportunities for all investments globally. Yeah, and with the themes of the consumption upgrade with the middle class, growing middle class, and huge demand from domestic market.
So what's the variety? People want to know what's the opportunity here? What kind of location-based entertainment? What kind of sports opportunity are you looking for as an investor today? And to how are you building that out here in China?
Right now, we are doing basically 2 things. One is the heavy model, theme park, location-based entertainment, heavy investment and operation. The other light models. We are doing a lot of events. And I think people are not, people are social animal, right? They use the personal device, but they still need a group experience. So offline experience, like festivals, like concerts, you can see the momentum. From all the statistics, all the numbers, you can see the momentum from offline experience. So online, definitely, Tencent, Alibaba, they are doing a lot. Then offline is let's say, a vacancy for the people to consider.
So with the blockbuster success of Disney Shanghai, which I know you were very, very instrumental in bringing that to Shanghai and a partner, an investor in it, will there be more Disneys in China soon?
Yeah. I think all the theme park operators are desperate to find the good locations in China, because China population is quite scattered. So there are a lot of opportunities from those. I just mentioned the lower tier cities.
Right.
Huge demand for location-based entertainment.
Time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank
both
you
of
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you to keep your seats just for a couple more minutes here, and I'll be very quick, but some important things to tell you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here and making this so special. I want to give a shout out to the co-chairs who put so much time and energy into this program. Adam Lashinsky, Clay Chandler right back there, Nina Easton, Jimmy Floor Cruz. Jimmy, where are you? Somewhere over there. Okay, good. Thank you, Jimmy. And also, is Cliff Leaf, the editor of Fortune, here? No, okay, but thank him too. An incredible program they put together for you. I also just want to take a minute to thank the unbelievable work done by our production teams. I don't know about you, I've never been to an event that was so smoothly run and so spectacularly produced as this one, and I think we should give them, there are too many of them to name here, but I think we should give them all a great round of applause. And obviously the city of Guangzhou has gone beyond imagination in helping us present this event and the show they put on last night. And so we thank the city of Guangzhou. And then our partners, our presenting partner, HSBC, our partners, China Energy Company, China Southern Airlines, Country Garden Holdings, GE, Guangzhou Automobile, Guangzhou Pharmaceutical, Insigniam, Medea, Yueshou Financial Holdings, Xishuin Fang. I hope everyone got to taste the official white spirit of the conference. Huawei, Herman Miller, who provided the chairs you're sitting in, Tencent and Atom Think Tank, and of course our knowledge partner, McKinsey & Company. I hope I didn't forget anyone, but they've really been incredibly supportive of this event, and they deserve a round of applause. And of course, the most important piece that makes the magic of these events is all of you and your participation and your discussions and your questions, and we thank you all for being a part of this, and we hope to see you all in Canada next year. So thank you.
Dear media friends, 2017 Fortune Group Forum has been highly supported by the domestic and international media, sitting or not sitting here since the 6th of today, 6th of December, and today it's going to conclude. First of all, we would like to invite the Chief Content Officer, Mr. Wurilan from Times, as well as the members of the Guangzhou municipality, and Mr. Cai Chaolin, the Executive Director of 2017 FGF, to come to the stage together. First of all, we would like to invite the Chief Content Officer, Mr. Alan Murray, to do the major launching. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this on? So good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for this press conference. We know that, like all of us, you've had a very busy week, and we thank you for being here and for the interest you've shown in this event. I want to start by thanking Mr. Tsai, who has been an incredible partner over the course of the last 2 years. You all may not know that he did a 13-city tour of the world prior to this event, raising awareness about the Fortune Global Forum and about Guangzhou in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, London, Paris, Frankfurt, really all over the world. And we thank him for his cooperation and support and leadership in this area. This has been an incredible week of conversation and discovery, not only from the names that have appeared on the stage, like Tim Cook, Jack Ma, Pony Ma, but also the conversations that happened in the breakouts, the conversations that happened in the hallways. The theme of openness and innovation carried through all of those conversations. I think all of us leave here with a much clearer view of the remarkable innovation that is happening in China these days. We leave with a clearer view of China's commitment to continued globalization, and we leave with new knowledge about artificial intelligence, the future of finance, the future of cities, of mobility, and many other topics critical to the future of the world. Fortune's also very deeply grateful to President Xi Jinping for his letter of welcome that opened the Global Forum. In that message, he pledged that China will not close its door to the world and will continue to develop an open business environment that becomes more transparent and regulated. He committed China to continuing to strengthen global partnerships and to encourage global investment and global trade. And he made clear that China will pursue reforms that create an open environment for innovation, for creativity, and for further economic development. The CEOs who assembled here from all over the world were honored to receive that letter and responded very positively to it. And I can tell you from many hallway conversations that the CEOs of Fortune Global 500 companies who attended this conference were greatly impressed with the messages they heard from President Xi Jinping, with the messages they heard from the leaders on the stage, and with the amazing reception that they received from the city of Guangzhou over the course of the last 3 days. We've had a strong outpouring of interest and support for the conference. Over 3 million people viewed portions of the conference on the live stream on Tencent. There's been enormous press coverage around the world of the event, and we are quite confident that in conversations that happened here in the hallways or in rooms in the hotel, that there are many important business deals that will benefit Guangzhou that come out of this, and it will, as past Fortune Global Forums, lead to investment in this beautiful city. At Fortune, we will be back in Asia very soon. Fortune Brainstorm Design will be in Singapore March 6th through 8th, and then we will be back here in Guangzhou next year, once again for Brainstorm Tech International. Just quickly, let me one more time thank Mr. Tsai and all the officials of the city of Guangzhou for their incredible welcome, for last night's dinner, for its performances, for the river cruise and the skyline. I want to thank Vice Premier Wang Yang for joining us and honoring us with his comments, which were interesting elaboration on the events of the 19th Party Congress. I want to thank the staff of Fortune that worked so hard to put on this event, all the volunteers who have been here and who have helped us out, and just overall the tremendous warm welcome that everyone in Guangzhou has given us and has made us now consider you truly top-tier Fortune Global 500 city. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for your launching of the press conference. Yes, indeed, in the past 1.5 years, during the process of preparation, there are a lot of media friends sitting here, as well as a lot of people who are not here, had already established very good relations with Alan Mullen and Fortune. Now we would like to invite the director of the executive committee of 2017 FGF to launch the press conference. My dear friend, old friend, Alan Murray, as well as my old colleagues from a Fortune Group and media friends, good afternoon. From December 6 to 8th, 2017, Fortune Group Forum is being held in Guangzhou. During the forum, we organized 55 sessions of dialogues and conversation. We also arranged a business tour, as well as spouse events, opening, gala dinner, and a night visit of Zhujiang River, and other events and activities. And we are almost coming to the end of the agenda, and great achievements have already been made. I would like to briefly introduce to you what we did. First of all, the forum elaborated the spirit of 19th CPC Congress to the international world. So this forum is a very important multilateral event after 19th CPC Congress. President Xi delivered his congratulation message to this FGF and illustrated the policy direction, and also announced that China would like to establish a common destiny between all the human society. And we implemented the spirit of CPC 19th Congress. And this is a very important area for us to implement the spirit of 19th CPC Congress. And also in the two breakout forum, as well as 3 roundtable discussion, the government officials from Guangzhou also delivered related speech, and also the document from the central government written by President Xi Jinping had already been distributed very quickly to the participants. Secondly, during the forum, we had around 388 companies from 36 countries and regions. Altogether, the participants' number reached more than 13,000, and 300 CEO level participating in the conference. And we have 118 people of the VP level from a Fortune 500 company coming to attend this meeting. So the number of participants exceeded the previous FGF conferences. The government officials and top 500 companies and the leading companies sent their CEOs, as well as the government officials higher than the vice minister level, Altogether, we have 100 people of that level coming to attend this meeting. And we also organized 2 sessions of high-level dialogue between the top companies so that they could have a better understanding of Guangzhou. And the party secretary and mayor, as well as other 10 municipal government officials, had this one-on-one meeting with 141 companies. And Mr. Xue Feng, party secretary, had 22 sessions, and Mayor Guo Hui 15 sessions, and Yue Lun 11 sessions. They delivered the message of welcoming the investment and trade from their companies. And also we organized the city tour. Around 364 business heads attended these visits to have a further and closer contact with Guangzhou. And GAC, as well as Guangzhou Pharmaceutical Group and Yuexiu, became the partner of this FGF 2017. And during the process, Guangzhou municipality, together with Ant Financial of Alibaba, signed a strategic partnership MOU. Ali Cloud Industrial Internet headquarters decided to relocate to Guangzhou Development Zone, and Alibaba and Financials would like to establish in Guangzhou the Alibaba South Asia Operating Center, and Guangzhou government as well as Paulson Foundation established the framework agreement in order to develop in Nansha area a sustainable urbanization pilot program. And there are a lot of others, similar other cooperation activities going on. And number 4, during the forum period, the technical brainstorm Tech International was held, and around 13 sessions of dialogues and interviews were conducted, and we attracted 200 participants. We also organized 4 roundtable discussions for the 2017 FGF, and some major city heads and leaders come together in this roundtable discussion to discuss about the how they could cooperate between the government and the business sector. And also, we organized breakout sessions to discuss the issues faced by the world, and also promote China's further participation into the global governance and to establish a modern economic structure or system, especially Mr. Ma Yun, Jack Ma from Alibaba, and Pony Ma from Tencent, Tim Cook from Apple, and Ms. Penner from Walmart, and Mr. Guo Taimin from Honghai. And all these people had in-depth discussion about the future and technology, and which attracted a lot of participation. And we also arranged spouse events, and also arranged 19 commercial or business tours to fully showcase the vigorous development of Guangzhou. And number 5 is to organize opening gala as well as the gala dinner to fully showcase this inclusive environment of Guangzhou. And we organized the Zhujiang Night Tour for the participants so that you could have a better feeling of the tradition as well as the modern style of Guangzhou. And the forum is very well organized and very securely organized. We arranged the resources to participate into the receiving of the guests. And secondly, we came up with the transportation policy and plan. Smart transportation makes the transport very safe. In general, the guests are happy with the transportation. And number 3 is volunteer service. We have around 3,350 volunteers attending this forum, which exhibits the level of organization of the Guangzhou municipality. Number 4 is to make sure the safety of this forum. And in order to keep the security and make the conference to be conducted in an orderly way, we devoted a lot of security resources, and also maximally reduce the impact over the mobility of the general public during this process. And number 6, we have a very conscientious planning and roadmap for this 2017 for FGF. And we also visited Beijing, Paris, Hong Kong, and 13 road show of 2017 FGF attracted a lot of companies to participate and presented the image of Guangzhou. And also the image of Guangzhou has been highly promoted. We also produced the commercial for the Guangzhou and has been shown to the participants in different forms. And we also attracted altogether 20,000 media agencies. And starting from December the 6th of last year to November 30th, we have seen around 6,000 times of coverage of this forum. And during the conference from December the 2nd to December 18th, around 89 media from both China and abroad, and 420 journalists attended did the media coverage, and the total papers published, or newspapers articles published, around 10,000 coverage. And it covers a large amount of readers, and around 2 billion people times. And according to the information center, there's around 42,000 of people visiting our website. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Alan Murray and Mr. Tsai, for the press conference talk. And we also feel that great concern has been given to us to the 2017 FGF, as well as to Guangzhou and Guangdong province. Thank you very much.
So now the floor is open for the Q&A session. Please prepare the microphones. Before you raise your questions, please introduce yourself and also your organization, and then you can come up with your question. Now the floor is open. How about the lady in the front, in the middle row? Thank you. With the CCTV and the China International Radio, my question is for Mr. Morris.
It's for Mr. Alan Murray, and I am from CGTN, China Global Television Network of China Central Television. And Mr. Murray, we all know that the Fortune Global Forum has been held several times in China before, and this year's forum is another very important multilateral international event held in China, especially after the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. So in your perspective, what are the highlights that makes this year's forum different and special from the previous ones? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I would cite 3 things that have made this clearly the most successful of the 5 global forums that we have held in China. First of all, there's an enormous amount of interest of the stage that the Chinese economic development is at right now. We've always known that China was a vast consumer market. We've always known that China had superior manufacturing skills, but what you really saw on the stage this week, both at Brainstorm Tech International and at the Fortune Global Forum, was some leading edge innovation happening in areas like e-commerce or in fintech, or happening at companies like Hire, and beginning to happen in the area of artificial intelligence. So I think that was clearly one of the big highlights. The second highlight that I would cite was the role that the the government played, President Xi Jinping, Vice Premier Wang Yang, and other government leaders in using the forum as a place to deliver a message to the world in the wake of the 19th Party Congress on China's commitment to continued reform of its economy and its strong commitment to globalization in the world. And the third factor that made this the best of the 5 global forums that we've had in China so far was just the unbelievable commitment that the city of Guangzhou and the Guangdong province made to making it a success.
好，谢谢我们媒体的提问。
Many thank you for your question and also for the wonderful answer from Mr. Moreland. Now, the second question, how about you, the gentleman in the front row? Please pass the microphone. I'm from People's Daily. My question is for Mr. Chai. My question is that during this Fortune Global Forum, well, can we manifest the spirits of the 19th People's CPC, and also according to the response of attendees, how they responded to the congratulations from President Xi Jinping? Thanks for your question very much. This Fortune Global Forum is a very important and multilateral international event subsequent to the 19th MPC. By virtue of this platform, we would like to decipher, interpret China's development philosophy and also China's development orientations, since it is widely focused by the world. We take Guangzhou City and Guangdong Province as a window to showcase our great achievements in reform and opening up. We want to further our opening up and reform, which is very meaningful in promoting world economic growth. We have special sessions for explaining the spirits and principles of 19th MPC. I'd say that we've invited officials from NDRC, China Communication, and the Broadcasting Department, PBOC. They have delivered speeches to interpret China's development trends in the related fields and also our policy orientation. In addition, we have undertaken 2 sub-sessions and 3 roundtables. We've invited officials from MIIT, CFDA, China Quality Inspection Authority, to interpret the spirits of 19th MPC. Besides, we have prepared the report for the 19th MPC, especially President Xi Jinping's philosophy on national or governmental governance in both Chinese and English version, which are well received by our audiences. What excites me is that President Xi Jinping has sent his congratulations to the Fortune Global Forum, Guangzhou 2017, which has manifested China's policy orientation. It showed China's willingness to co-build the human destiny community. Our friends in and out of China said highly of the congratulations from President Xi Jinping. According to many experts, now the protectionism and anti-globalization is looming large in the world. President Xi Jinping's congratulations fully demonstrated the opening up and cooperative spirits. According to CCTV, our Vice Premier Wang Yang also attended our forum. Mr. Zhang from China News Office has announced this announcement. And after the news agency promoted congratulations from President Xi Jinping, there are over 2,000 positive comments. There are very positive headlines and coverage from the media about President Xi Jinping's congratulations. Thank you so much. It is well received in the society. Many thanks for our question and also for the answer from Mr. Chai. How about this lady in light color? Thanks for our host. I'm from Hong Kong Commercial Daily. My question is for Mr. Moreland. According to your knowledge, the CEOs attending this forum, how do they feel about this? Now we have a lot of international events in Guangzhou, which showed that Guangzhou has become an important international exchange center in the world. How do you evaluate this? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. I talked to many of the CEOs from around the world who attended the conference over the last 4 days. And you need to keep in mind that these are very busy people. They have very crowded schedules. For them to make a commitment of 2, 3, 4 days to a conference like this is a huge investment of their time and energy. And so the question I asked was it worth it? Did you get something out of it? Across the board, every CEO I talked to said, yes, amazing, really positive. Both the content, the people who appeared on stage, you don't get a lineup like that very often. The conversations they had off stage, but also the incredibly welcoming reception that they got from the city of Guangzhou. The flowers, the lights, the riverfront, the delicious food, and most importantly, the welcome from the people as well as the government. So I'm quite confident. We will do a survey of the CEOs when it's over and have a better sense. But I'm quite confident that everyone who attended this Fortune Global Forum went away happy that they had spent their time here and very impressed with what they learned and what they saw, and impressed with the city of Guangzhou.
Many thanks for the questions from Armenia and also the answer from Mr. Moreland. Okay, the lady in the middle. Thanks. I'm from Charles Southern Delhi. My question goes to Mr. Chai. During this Fortune Global Forum in Guangzhou, we have a lot of high-caliber leaders and attendees. This has been a historical record in terms of the number of attendees. Lately, we are seeing that Guangzhou belongs to the world, belongs to the whole globe. So the Charles Southern Delhi has mentioned this event and used a headline which is entitled "The World Outlook of Guangzhou." So how do you think this event will influence Guangzhou's development in the future? Thank you very much. This Fortune Global Forum in Guangzhou has witnessed the most high-caliber attendees. I think this shows the international community's focus and attention on Guangzhou. It shows the support and love from the different sectors of society on Guangzhou. In the beginning, we think Guangzhou's development can reflect the development of Guangdong province and even China at large. We describe this forum as the most direct window to get to know the economic trends in the world. There is a reason for them to choose to host this forum in Guangzhou. They will choose a very dynamic, vibrant destination for hosting this event. The forum is under the theme of open and innovation, constructing new economic outlook and the landscape. We will focus on the popular issues, and our attendees and guests have made very in-depth exchanges with each other. They contribute their wisdom and wise ideas. That is very in-depth exchanges and dialogues between China and the rest part of the world. In President Xi Jinping's congratulations to this meeting, we would like to share the achievements of China's reform and opening up and co-build an even better future for the future economic and trade development. This showed the positive meaning of this forum on world economic growth. Next year will mark the 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up. In such a crucial moment, we meet at the forefront of China's reform and opening up the city of Guangzhou to have dialogues with the world, which will have far-reaching effect and impact on China and the world. This forum is home to international and domestic talents, leaders, and officials, which showcase the Guangzhou's development so that the world can know more about Guangzhou and that Guangzhou can become more integrated with the rest of part of the world. Besides, it will promote exchanges and communication between Guangzhou and the rest of part of the world. Now, Guangzhou is an integral part of the world. In terms of trade, commerce, tourism, and financial, we have fully engaged in international exchanges and cooperation. Via this forum, we want to present Guangzhou's city image and sound business environment so as to attract more investors and enterprises to develop now business in Guangzhou, to aggregate more high-end resources globally in Guangzhou, to build Guangzhou into an international hub, an important link for international exchanges, and communication. Thank you very much. Thanks for the question from our media friends and also the answer from Mr. Chai. Okay, thank you very much. I'm from China's southern metropolis, Delhi. My question goes to Mr. Moreland. The theme of this forum is openness and innovation to co-building a new economic landscape. By hosting this forum successfully, how will it facilitate the constructing of the new economic landscape? And personally, what's your biggest harvest from this event?
Thank you very much for your question. I think what events like this do, look, openness and innovation happens with a free exchange of ideas, with the opportunity of people from different backgrounds in different industries to get together and share their thoughts and share their ideas and share their innovations. And that becomes the support and the core of further innovation. At Fortune, we strongly believe in global openness, in the free exchange of ideas, and we think that this forum has been an excellent example of that. And
from our Mr. Moreland. Okay, the lady in the front row. Thank you. From Guangzhou Daily.
I'm from Guangzhou Daily, and my question is to Mr. Cai. You mentioned that during this forum, a lot of agreements have been signed, MOU have been signed. So what does FGF left for Guangzhou after this forum? And after this forum, how Guangzhou is going to strengthen its cooperation and communication with the Fortune 500 in order to achieve high-quality development for Guangzhou? Thank you for your question. And after this 2017 FGF, actually we're trying to summarize what that we can achieve from this FGF from the Guangzhou's perspective. There are tangible as well as intangible impacts. First of all, FGF chose to organize this 2017 meeting in Guangzhou. That showcased that the investors as well as business leaders are interested and are confident in Guangzhou. So through this FGF 2017, we showcased to the world the image of Guangzhou as well as the business environment, our soft strength and hard strength, which is really good for Guangzhou to further attract investment and companies and conduct international cooperation. It's very positive. I call this intangible asset or intangible wealth. In terms of the tangible result we achieved from this forum, is we have already established a long-term communication platform with the FGF. That's the Fortune 2017 Brainstorm Tech International will be located in Guangzhou forever. And by using this platform, we can even upgrade Guangzhou's image as a technical strong city. And also, by organizing this forum, we can force our management to be more defined in Guangzhou municipality management. As you can see, the overall environment has changed a little bit, right? So we would like to make Guangzhou a better city so that the general public of Guangzhou people could have a better and happier life. So what are we going to do after this forum? First of all, we would like to contribute a lot and devote ourselves for the organization of Fortune 2017 Brainstorm Tech International. And starting from Q1 of next year, we'll start the preparation work in order to make it more successful. In general, the 2017 FGF is very well organized, but still there are some details and some space for improvement. As the executive director of this committee, I'm still thinking about it. But I'm sure next year the Fortune 2018 Brainstorm Tech International would be better than this year. And secondly, we organized 13 road shows in 13 cities all over the world. I think it's a very effective an approach. So next year, we will use the similar approach. And next year would be the Guangzhou International City Image year. And we will organize some international road show as well. And also by using opening up and transformation as well as innovation-driven methodology, we are going to conduct in-depth cooperation with friends from all over the world. Not only will we attract international companies to come to invest and develop in Guangzhou, but also we encourage the local Guangdong companies to go outside China so that this dual communication could be achieved. Thank you. Thank you, our media friends, for your question. And thank you, Mr. Cai, for your answer. It's 12:35 already. We would like to give the last opportunity for last question. There is a young kid over there. We'll leave that opportunity to this kid. Thank you.
Nice to meet you again. I'm Judy, the little messenger for Guangzhou Fortune Global Forum. I'm only 10 years old now, but in less than 10 years, I'll be a very attractive customer. So, what kind of new companies do you think will join the Fortune Global 500 in 10 years to meet the needs of future customers like me?
So Judy, thank you for that question, and let me apologize to all the other journalists in the room before I say that you are my favorite journalist in Guangzhou. I think what we heard here at the Fortune Global Forum over the last few days were some very interesting developments on the frontiers of artificial intelligence, which has enormous potential to change the world in many industries. And so I think that's an area, if you're looking 10 years down the road, where you should expect big changes and lots of development. The other area where we heard some very interesting work going on was in the area of biotechnology and bioscience and healthcare more broadly. Again, I think that's an area where if you're looking to focus your studies for the next 10 years, you would do well to pay attention. And finally, let me just say that I hope at some point you will come to New York and visit us at Fortune. We would love to have you there, and I'd like to have you teach a reporting class to some of my reporters.
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you, Mr. Alan Murray, for your answer.
By the way, last time I think I promised you the shrimp dumplings.
Yes.
Yeah, and I value my words like you did. So, da-da-da-da, here's the surprise.
因为穆瑞兰总裁曾经答应过。
Yeah, Mr. Alan Murray promised that he would have the shrimp dumpling and. 你不吃吗？
Very good.
Well, I know that you would come to Guangzhou for the.
Can Mr. Tsai have one?
OK， 我们来总裁想请。好的，好的，好，好，也行。好，好，谢谢我们的小朋友，谢谢。
Thank you very much. Thank you.
答问环节因为时间关系，我们到这里结束。接下来呢，我们也借这个舞台吧，我们由蔡朝林先生代表我们广州市的组委会。
We'll also use this opportunity to present a little gift to our fortune friend, Mr. Alan Murray. Mr. Tsai is going to present you a little gift, and thank you. Mr. Tsai is going to present this gift to Mr. Alan.
这个东方风的我们的财富。
So this is the president of Fortune. Okay, I would like to specifically introduce. This is drawn by a local famous artist, Mr. Professor Ye Zhenhua, from the Guangzhou Academy of Fine Arts. And please come to the stage, Mr. Ye. Please come to the stage to take a group photo with these two.
We can bring it up on stage, please.
OK. Oh, we take a photo with our.
I'm the painter.
Oh, take a photo. You're the painter. Very nice.
Professor Ye is the artist. Maybe you can make it as the cover of your magazine.
Do you think so? Over here?
Yes.
Okay.
我们请3位一起在中央舞。
Okay, the three of you, please come to the middle of the stage. Let's take a group photo. Thank you, Professor Ye. Thank you. We
穆瑞兰总裁呢也有个礼物送给我们广州方的蔡朝林先生，我们看这是什么礼物，大家看一下哈。
This is to keep in your office.
That's the permanent fortune.
This is the permanent fortune.
Yeah.
We consider you number 1 of the 500.
Oh, great. Thank you.
感谢我们。
Thank you, Mr. Alan Murray.
Right here.
好，朝不同的方向，我们给各位媒体朋友拍拍照。
So looking at the different directions, you can take photos by the media. Now we would like to. We know that in this conference room we have very excellent dialogue, and outside this conference room we have volunteers. And volunteers indeed contribute a lot for this conference, for this forum. And Mr. Alan Murray are very interested in the style of the volunteers' attire or the clothes. Now we would like to present this attire to Mr. Alan Murray. Two of you, both of you will have these clothes. Thank you. And you can wear your hats on. And wear your hats on and take a photo. Okay, the four of you group photos together. Thank you all. the media friends for your support. And with that, we would like to conclude today's press conference. And hopefully you can participate in the afternoon visits. Thank you.